I'm speaking with Duncan McCall. He's the CEO and co-founder of PlaceIQ. Duncan, thanks for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me, appreciate it.
First of all, can you tell me about PlaceIQ? What do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we enable privacy-friendly targeting, primarily on mobile, although we're now actually running campaigns online as well. And the way we do that is by using the context of location, understanding the attributes of a location, what type of people there, what type of audience is there. So now we can actually serve mobile ads, online ads specific to a location and therefore to a specific audience.
Boy, that idea of hyperlocal just came up really quickly, I think, but it's huge now. Everybody's talking about it. So what do companies need to know, and what are you seeing companies do wrong, incorrectly in hyperlocal?
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably fall back to the cliche answer of any new technology, which is don't use it for the technology's sake. It has to be part of a bigger strategy. So for example, we had a customer that was starting to do hyperlocal targeting, and they were geo-fencing their stores. So the idea of just putting a ring around their stores and serving mobile ads into that ring, saying, hey, these are intenders for our product. And of course the reality is that people who just happen to be walking past your store aren't necessarily the intenders for your product. In a city, those people are in all sorts of other areas, so we came in and we said, okay, let's look at this from an audience perspective. What are you actually trying to achieve here? What is your audience? And let's find that audience in time and space, and we took basically their very performant campaign and almost double performance on it. So quite successful. So I think really, the obvious one for me to talk about would be, make any new technology, particularly hyperlocal, part of a bigger audience strategy.
Yeah. So tell me about a successful campaign. How are you seeing this be done right?
Yeah, so I think, again, it comes down to audience, so understanding what are you trying to accomplish, what's a specific audience you're trying to target here. So we have, a bunch of examples. We've run campaigns for big QSRs, retail brands, travel. We've actually started to running some online campaigns. And I think, the idea of having a specific audience that you can target has really been, extremely performant, productive for us. And I think, it speaks all to the power of hyperlocal, that you've really now got this massive sea of mobile devices out there that are location aware, with people opting in to share their location. And it's important to remember that everything we're doing in hyperlocal, as well as some others, is privacy friendly. We're not profiling users, we're just profiling locations and understanding the types of behaviors that are going on in those locations. So I think, another thing to be aware of is you've got to be very careful around the privacy concerns when it comes to hyperlocal and location.
Speaking of, what has the response been? What do consumers think?
No, it's every campaign we have run, we've A/B tested so far, and it's been orders of magnitude more performant than what has been done before. So I think, it's been working. Consumers have been liking it. I think the reality is for us, I always think mobile has this opportunity to be a fantastic platform for the dream of one-to-one marketing. So the idea of being able to say, look, if you're on a mobile device and you're at work or you're driving or walking down the street, probably not a good time to engage you with a rich media ad, right? Interrupt your flow. However, if we understand the context of your location and we know when you're walking down the street and when you're maybe commuting or you're stuck at the DMV or the doctor's office, that might be a great time to be able to permission market to you and send you a rich media ad. So I think understanding the context of users' locations and using that as a proxy to be able to one-to-one market to them is incredibly powerful, and I think speaks to the real future of mobile targeting as well as hyperlocal targeting.
Yeah, and looking again at the consumer, do they think this is a brand new thing, or when do you think the adoption rate will be such that they're used to this?
So I think there's a number of steps in the chain. So if you look at the publisher side, so still it's early. If you take mobile for an example and you say, how many hyperlocal impressions are available right now? There's probably single-digit billions, so there's quite a lot. However, they're fragmented, they're hard to get at, and increasingly publishers are turning on location, but it's slow and there are privacy concerns, so it has to be done in the right way. So I think the reality is we are at the beginning of this, but I think now the infrastructure is in place and also the consumer value proposition is in place to see a more relevant ad, a more timely ad, something that's relevant to the context you're in. If you're a tourist in a city, don't show me ads for roofing repair or rentals. However, if I'm a business traveler or a worker downtown, show me something that's very specific to my context, to who I am. Right. That I think is unlocks the potential of mobile targeting in a really powerful way.
Okay, so what happens over the next year in the industry and with PlaceIQ?
So I think in the industry you're going to see increasingly impressions being turned on from the publisher side that have location. I think you'll see much greater adoption. You'll see people start to target in a way that raises the CPMs tremendously. So obviously now publishers see that value proposition. So we just see rapid adoption across a number of different platforms. Primarily mobile is where we're focused. So in terms of PlaceIQ, so we actually have a couple of announcements we'll be doing in the next few weeks around the company itself, but also around different customers. And then in terms of our products, we're really ingesting more and more data, so more data to give a detailed understanding of location, a whole bunch of new partnerships, and just really charging forward, building our products out and building our business.
Yeah. Now you talked about privacy though. You're getting a lot more data in. How do you weigh that with privacy concerns?
Exactly. So the thing we do right now is really focus on what we call place context. You're in a location right now, we understand the attributes of that location. We don't understand the attributes of you as a user. And in fact, when we target mobile ads, we don't know who those users are. We just know they're in a location that has a very strong behavior that's attractive to a certain type of advertiser or advertisement. So I think privacy is a huge concern, but the reality is for us, there's no PII involved, there's no personal information, we're not tracking users, there's nothing installed on the phone. So we really think that approach is a way to do this in a privacy-friendly manner.
Interesting. Okay, and finally, what are the top challenges that companies in the hyperlocal space are going to face over the next year?
So I guess I default straight to privacy, right?
Of course.
Whether or not it's a legal issue or a real issue, it's an issue that the media has picked up on. Quite rightly, it's a huge concern. I think that's there needs to be a very careful path trod around privacy. And I also think consumers need to understand why and how. If you're on an ad-supported application and you're asked to share your location, you should maybe understand that, well, that's an ad-supported application. We're not tracking you, we're not building up a database,
right,
but we'd like to understand your location so we can serve you a slightly more relevant ad. So I think it's educating the consumer, and I also think it's educating a lot of the publishers out there that could be capturing location who aren't right now. So I think there's definitely those challenges around privacy, education in the ecosystem, and consumer education as well. But we already see those barriers are starting to get pushed down, so I think next year we'll see a lot of acceleration in the space. Okay,
last piece of advice for your peers in the community or for companies.
Really, for me, right, it comes down to the power of mobile with location. I think is tremendously important. So it's if you're not thinking about it, you should be. You don't need to be a physical bricks and mortar business and say, look, I'm going to drive users in. You need to think about it as a way to find audience on a mobile platform. So I think thinking about mobile meets location is really important in the coming year if you want to run some innovative campaigns in the mobile space.
Okay, so it sounds like companies, whether or not this is the very top of your priority list, you need to be dealing with and coming up with a strategy for hyperlocal. It's here. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.